as I think back across my gaming history, this actually might be the very first time that I've ever played a remake and never the original version of a game. So my perspective is someone who is coming in with no real previous history. Well, except for one time. I have a confession to make. The one time I played Secret of Mana, when I rented it from the local Pop and Go video back in my early teens, I had some really hot takes about the game that I'm sure a lot of fans of the series probably won't appreciate. Now please, don't turn off the review now, but let me tell you what I experienced. I thought that Secret of Mana was boring. I didn't think it was very fun. I didn't like the ring system. I thought the combat was very, very slow. And the real thing is I was brutalized by that first boss and the hole in the ground in the first town. You know, the spider looking thing? There was nothing I could do to beat it. I just really didn't jive with the combat. So I never really had this great affinity towards the fan translation of Seiken Densetsu 3. However, my tastes and preferences have changed over the years. When Square Enix announced that Seiken Densetsu 3 was being officially translated and we were going to get this Mana collection on the Switch with this new game, Trials of Mana, I was legitimately excited to give the series a brand new try on the Switch. That is, until moments later, they showed an entirely remade version. I still haven't played the original. But this remake, after 25 hours of adventuring on hard mode through this beautiful storybook world and the extra post-credits mission, this is my review of Trials of Mana for the PlayStation 4, PC, and Nintendo Switch. I want to immediately talk about one of the pros of this game and make a small confession. I did not beat the whole thing with all 6 party members. I did not play through it multiple times. I chose Duran, Angela, and Reese as my party and did not try out Charlotte, Kevin, or Hawkeye. The various combinations of party members tied in with who you have lead the campaign would really honestly allow for multiple playthroughs to experience everything there is to offer. To truly see it all, you could play it through at least 6 times. I think another thing to point out is that unlike Final Fantasy VII Remake, Trials of Mana is really just a one-for-one remake with brand new visuals, soundtrack, and combat. There's not really any added content besides this one post-credit mission and dungeon. I suspect that's why when they launched the game, they chose to price it $10 cheaper than the average MSRP. I think that was a smart choice. The first thing that jumped out to me about Trials of Mana wasn't actually what hit my eyes, but the sound that came to my ears. I'm a massive fan of video game music. Creating the perfect tune to fit a scene can really make or break a game. Trials of Mana Remake's composers offered a soundtrack that is easily one of the better musical compositions in games. The various themes from the Golden Road or the high-intensity tracks that play during the boss battles provide what I consider an excellent backdrop to the story and the world. One of the unique things that they did to pay homage to the original version of the game was that some of the sound effects you hear in the menus or specific actions in the game, they're high-fidelity versions of those original sounds, tuned to fit modern conventions, and it made me smile every time I heard that old 16-bit sound effect. Now, we're talking about sound here, and I think voice acting would be the next part of the discussion. And I want to be clear about something. The voice acting is not bad, okay? It's not even just serviceable, as they say. It's good. It's okay. But it doesn't really blow you away or take any risks. The dialogue writing itself is excellent, but its delivery could sometimes take you out of the experience, especially when you're around Charlotte, or Shawit, as she would pronounce her name. She's a typical JRPG trope. You have a young kid in a game who sounds a bit like a baby. I don't mind her sounding like a kid. but not this baby gibberish kind of way of turning her R's into W's. Didn't like that. That's actually one of the main reasons I did not put her in my party, even though she is the best healer in the game. And I played through the story on the hardest difficulty. One of the challenges that they may have had was that due to the multiple party members and combinations you could have in the game, the actors and actresses that recorded the lines were probably not next to each other with the needed context. The characters never really felt like they were playing off of one another, and it just felt like they were just delivering their lines separately. And while it wasn't perfect, it was still fun and really didn't take away from me enjoying the game. The reimagined combat system, though, is where I believe the game's addictive loop comes into play. While listening to the fantastic soundtrack and bashing on the various enemies in the game, you just lose track of time. The combat really is the most basic of action RPGs, but it's refined into this fantastic experience. It's easy and simple, but a joy to master. Now, I want to point out again that I played this game through on the hardest difficulty. And I really think that's the best to play on. When I dropped down to normal for just a few minutes, I found that the game was far too easy. That being said, if you want to get a newcomer or maybe a young child into this style of game, I think this is the perfect one to do it with. You start out in Trials of Mana with one special attack and a straightforward combo move. But as the story progresses and you level up, you are offered a myriad of choices to customize your party exactly how you want it to be. Part of the world's lore is the ability to change your class via the Mana Stones. And with each class change, you receive a dark and a light option. The dark options lean towards massive damage and enemy debuffs, while the light options provide more defense and buffs to your party along with healing. In my playthrough, I actually made Duran the swordsman my tank and my healer, while the other two focused on enemy debuffs and damage. As I paid attention to the enemy's more powerful attacks, which were always alerted to on screen with a red light, I grew more comfortable with dodging and rolling in to do devastating damage, no matter what character I was playing as. Because this is a one-for-one remake of the original, several tropes that you often saw in Super Nintendo era games return in Trials of Mana. One of those is some pretty bad backtracking, in my opinion. You're often revisiting place after place to run through to go to the next part, particularly towards the beginning of the game when you don't have any extra traveling options. You're just running back through an area with old enemies that you've already fought that are too low of a level to be worth your time, and it just doesn't really flow all that well. In my opinion, it would have been fantastic if the enemies scaled with you, but often they do not. One of the things about the simplicity of this game that I enjoy is how you buy new weapons and armors in shops or find them in chests. It seems that most newer JRPGs have some sort of in-depth crafting or fusion system, and you gotta master it. While those have their place, there's something beautiful about going back to the basics. This game truly is a classic RPG experience. Trial of Mana's storybook world and the fun, lighthearted story made for a fantastic adventure of saving the world from an ultimate evil that is trying to control everything. There are a few fun twists built in, otherwise the story is straightforward and enjoyable. Fun and challenging boss fights, a unique pot to upgrade to get new items, and a few other neat secrets in the game give even more replayability, besides the multiple playthroughs. While not perfect, I absolutely love Trials of Mana, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who is a fan of the genre, the series, or enjoys these styles of games. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, I would love it if you'd hit that subscribe button that's right down here. Otherwise, if you want to see more videos from me, YouTube recommends this one right up here. And the last one I put out is just right over here. Links to all of my Twitch streams and social media is down in the doobly-doo below. I hope you have a fantastic day, happy adventuring, and enjoy Trials of Mana if you decide to pick it up.